Good afternoon and welcome to the Paycheck Protection Program webinar. My name is Yeri Olivares, Chief Operating Officer for the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation, and on behalf of our organization, I would like to thank you for joining us today and hope you and your loved ones are healthy and doing well. I would also like to thank Victor Briviesca, Economic Development Strategist with the Small Business Administration's Fresno District Office, who is our guest speaker today and will be presenting on the Paycheck Protection Program. Before we get started, we would like to provide you with some instructions for the question and answer session. Sandra?
No. Mute. Should I unmute everyone? No.
Difficulties here. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, got it. We're both on. Go ahead, Sandra.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties. My name is Sandra Vidrio. During the presentation, please submit your questions or comments using the chat option tool. If you're accessing the webinar through a laptop or tablet, you will click on the chat icon, which you can see on your left of the screen. If using a mobile device, please select More on your screen to access the chat option. Questions will be answered throughout the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I would now like to share with you a brief agenda for today. I will be sharing brief information about our organization, then transitioning to our guest speaker, Victor, for his presentation, and then allow some time for a Q&A session. And as Sandra mentioned, please use the chat tool for your questions or comments. We will monitor them and address them during the Q&A session. With that, I would like to briefly share information about our programs and services for those of you that are new to our organization. The Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation is a nonprofit organization with the mission to promote education and self-sufficiency. Our three main core programs include the Technical Assistance Program, Microloan Program, and our Downtown Business Hub Incubator. So whether you're looking to start a business or expand your business, we provide you with the tools, educational training, and resources, as we like to say, for the life of the business. And just recently, we also became a lender and now provide small business loans in addition to helping with identifying other sources of financing and helping businesses submit loan applications through our local lending partners. Lastly, we have our business incubator, where we provide office space to startup and existing businesses, in addition to conference and training facilities. And of course, we are staying informed and up to date on all of the resources available to you as a business owner to bring you valuable information and updates during this time. So please feel free to reach out to us for any assistance at the contact information that's provided here on the slide. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker today. We're going to move right in. As a reminder, we will have a Q&A session with Victor after his presentation, and you may use the chat tool for your questions. Victor, welcome, and thank you for being with us today. Do you have your mic open?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. So again, thank you very much, Yeti. Thank you for the invitation and share this information with everybody that's on the call today. I'm going to talk about the SBA disaster assistance as it currently is at the moment. We're going to cover economic injury disaster loans as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm also going to be sharing with you the most current web links for information on both the Paycheck Protection Program as well as the application for the economic injury disaster loan, as well as the application for the Paycheck Protection Program that you're going to be taking to your lender. And so I'm going to do a brief overview as to how the EIDL program works, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. And I'm going to start it this way. I'm going to talk about it this way so that we can get an understanding on how it works. And then it's going to go into the CARES Act, which was enacted recently, and then we'll go from there. I do have my chat box open, so if there are any questions, please feel free to type them in there, and I'll go through them as we go down the listing. And I already have some questions, and we will be going into those questions as we go along the presentation. All right, so the Small Business Administration is offering designated states and territories low-interest disaster loans. When COVID-19 hit and struck, the intent was for the governors to designate certain areas within each state as a disaster. And so the first round only opened it up to certain parts of the state of California. However, as this thing kept progressing, the SBA under its own authority began to open it up to every single state and territory in the U.S. And so now the disaster assistance is available for any business within the continental U.S., including its national territories, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And so any business within those territories qualifies for these loans. Which businesses are eligible to apply? For economic injury disaster loan, businesses directly affected by the disaster, businesses that sell to businesses that were affected by the disaster itself. An example of that would be a food purveyor and that provides food products to a restaurant. The restaurant's directly affected by this. The food purveyor can no longer sell its products and services to the restaurant, and so they too would qualify for this particular loan. Other businesses indirectly related to the industry that are likely to be harmed by losses in their community. As far as information of what we look at when we're looking at disaster loans, we will look at credit history. There is a portion of it that the SBA will look at, and it has to be acceptable. A question that we get all the time is, what is the minimum FICO score? And so right now, we don't have a minimum because things continue to change every day. And so what we're asking all businesses to do is submit your application, and the loan officer will then contact you as to the status of your application. Because CARES Act was approved, the FICO score has been changed again, and all of the requirements and as well as the application documentation has been significantly reduced and relaxed. So at this point in time, we're asking everybody to submit it anyway. Repayment, we will determine if you can or cannot have the ability to repay. One of the things that the SBA does not want to do is to further burden the business with additional debts that they may or may not be able to carry on their records. And so those are one of the things that we will be looking for. And so the loan officer will contact you when they get to your file, and they will start asking you a series of questions. And some of those questions will be with regards to the repayments. Of course, the eligibility, as I mentioned, the applicant business must be physically located. Right now, everybody in the U.S., including its national territories, qualify for economic injury disaster loans. How much can a business borrow? Eligible entities can qualify for up to $2 million under this disaster declaration. The interest rate for this disaster is 3.75% for small businesses, 2.75% for nonprofit organizations with terms up to 30 years. Right now, they're going between 15 and 30, depending on the size of the loan, as well as the size of the entity and its financial resources. The funds can be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. The disaster declaration effective date is January 30th, 2020. Okay? The loans are not intended to replace lost sales or profits or expansion. Collateral, another question that we get all the time is what collateral or what are the collateral requirements? At this point, any loans over $25,000 will require collateral. However, if the business does not have collateral or there is a lack of collateral, the SBA will not decline the loan for lack of such. However, we will ask borrowers to pledge what is available if it is available. The SBA will take real estate as collateral when it's available, whether it be a home, whether it be commercial property, or property as a whole. Again, well, the eligible industries and businesses, as I mentioned, there are, for the most part, all businesses are eligible for a disaster loan. We will cover as we go along which entities are ineligible for the economic injury disaster loans. The SBA and economic injury disaster loans versus traditional SBA loans are completely two different things. The SBA in normal times without a disaster declaration is a guarantor to loans. We're not the direct lender. And so if a business goes into the bank asking for an SBA loan, the bank will call the SBA and request a guarantee. The SBA will then issue the guarantee to the lender, and the lender will make the loan to the borrower, and the debt is now between the bank itself and the borrower with the SBA giving the guarantee. During a declaration, the SBA turns into the direct lender. And so in this particular case, applicants do not need to go to the bank to apply. They come directly to us. The link on your screen, covid19relief.sba.gov, is a direct link to our application for the economic injury disaster loan. There is no cost to apply. There is no obligation to take the loan if offered. And the maximum, again, unsecured loan amount without collateral is going to be $25,000. If you do have an existing disaster loan, and you can apply for this particular disaster, however, you cannot combine both. Each declaration has its own amount assigned to it, and therefore we cannot be consolidating the loans together. As far as the cost to apply, there is zero cost to apply, but I will caution you that there is fraud and scams on the rise since this whole thing started, so please be very wary of that. There are individuals and business entities that are charging, from what we've heard so far, up to $1,000 to quote-unquote assist the business in filling out the application on the same portal. There are financial institutions that are not SBA approved, they're not SBA lenders, that will say they will assist a business in completing the application as well as offer PPP for that business. However, if the business does not respond and maintain the application on the forefront, that company that quote-unquote helped them will then begin to offer their own service packages at much higher interest rates and at different costs. So please be very wary of that. And we'll talk about which banks are accepting applications and where you can find that on our website. Ineligible entities include agricultural enterprises if the primary activity of the business is defined in Section 18B1 of the Small Business Act. And all that means really are those entities that are in farming. And the farming is defined as those that are actually planting, harvesting, pruning, anything that has to do with farm operation itself. We will direct those to the USDA as they have separate programs that can assist those entities. Religious organizations, charitable organizations, gambling concerns, casinos, and racetracks are other type of organizations that may not be eligible. However, as you can see with religious and charitable organizations, with the passing of the CARES Act, some of charitable organizations and some religious organizations may be able to apply and receive aid under the economic injury disaster loan. Again, applicants will need to use online application, covid19relief.sba.gov. If you have any questions or if you already filed your application, you can always contact the customer service center. There is the number there. You can also send them an email and request the status update of your application. The number is 1-800-659-2955 or an email at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. As far as services and assistance to fill out applications, we are working with SBA resource partners. Some of these partners include Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, Women's Business Center, Veteran Business Outreach Centers, local chambers of commerce, and other nonprofit entities in the local communities. So please go to them first if you need assistance, and then we can get you that help for free so that you can save yourself that money and headache and heartache with trying to find someone to help you, and then you lose money and not get the assistance that you need. If you want a locator for assistance, please go to sba.gov/local assistance. Type in your zip code, and you'll be able to see the entities that are near you. One of the things on submitting the application, you need to submit it as soon as possible. The biggest reason for delay in processing is due to lack or missing information. If the loan officer opens your application and there's missing fields, the loan officer won't be able to process your loan as quickly, since they have to go through the application and write down the questions they have before they talk to you. So please make sure to complete all filing requirements and fill out all line items required on the application to prevent delays in your processing. If more funds are needed, you can submit additional documentation and request an increase. If less funds are needed, you can request a reduction in the loan amount. So one of the questions we get is, Vic, there is no line to request a specific amount in the loan. The SBA will offer you a loan amount based on the information you provide. So once the loan officer reaches your application, begins to process it, they will reach out to you, the business owner, and make that offer. You as the business owner, again, have that right to accept or decline, increase or decrease the loan that's offered to you. And then those questions and detailed questions that you may have can then be addressed by the loan officer directly at that time. If the loan request is denied, you have up to 6 months in which you can provide new information and submit a written request for reconsideration. Okay, so we've already covered the economic injury disaster loan as it traditionally is, and with the CARES Act, there has been enhancements to the economic injury disaster loan. So what you already learned, we're going to add these additional enhancements to the program, which will provide additional benefits to the small business. And one of those enhancements is that the first payment is deferred for 12 months. In other words, your first payment won't be due for another year upon receipt of the loans. Also, there's a portion called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance. And what that means is that you may apply for up to $10,000, which can then be forgivable. And so let's make an example as to how that would work. If your business is contacted by the loan officer and they offer you a $25,000 loan and you did apply for the up to $10,000 advance, the first $10,000 would be considered forgiven. The remaining $15,000 would then be offered to you in the form of a loan with the same terms and conditions as I previously talked about. And so now you have $10,000 forgivable, and you have $15,000 that you can use as a loan with the same terms. The application to apply for both is the same one. The application itself will have a question asking if you're interested in applying for the economic injury disaster loan advance. Click on that box and you're automatically applying for that portion of the program. So I'm going to go and see if I can answer some of the questions that we're getting. We'll talk about the PPP in which banks are accepting applications here in a bit. What about farm labor contractors or companies that provide support on agriculture? Farm labor contractors can apply, yes, since their primary function is not the farm itself. they can apply for this particular loan program. Why is the FICO taken into consideration application? Most of small business are putting all they have into. This is an emergency, not a time where small business wants more money. Federal government is giving money to the banks. The bank is getting paid via. Okay, there's two separate programs. First of all, the economic injury disaster loan is not a bank loan. As I mentioned earlier, in case of a disaster declaration, the SBA turns into the direct lender. And so because it is a loan, the FICO score is considered. Again, with the passing of the CARES Act, it has been significantly been relaxed. So our recommendation is go to the application, submit it anyway, let the loan officer contact you, and you can discuss the terms of the loan at that point. With regards to the Payroll Protection Program and the banks, we'll be discussing that here in a bit. Have we funded any loans as of yet? Yes, we have. The loan numbers haven't come back to us. I don't have numbers on that. As soon as we get those, we will share with everybody else. And we'll talk about the Payroll Protection Program because I believe there's more questions on that. So moving on to the Payroll Protection Program. The Payroll Protection Program authorizes up to $349 billion for loans to small businesses to pay their employees during the COVID-19 crisis. All loan terms will be the same for everyone. This program, even though the SBA is part of the program, it is using its SBA lending network to apply and distribute the funding for the program. Okay. The loan amounts will be forgiven so long as the businesses meet the basic requirements in order for the loan to be considered forgivable. The loan proceeds are used to cover payroll costs and most mortgage interest, rent, utility costs over the 8-week period after the loan is made, and employee compensation and levels are maintained. The funds are provided in the form of loans that will be fully forgiven and used for payroll costs. Now, the 75% that you see there is at least 75% of the total loan amounts that you receive. At least 75% of the total loan amount that you receive will need to be used for payroll purposes. Payroll purposes meaning keeping those employees, if you're still open, if you're an essential business and you're still open, providing business, you still have to use 75% of that total loan amount to keep those employees working. Okay, very, very important you remember that. The other 25% can be used to pay other portions of your business. For example, rent, utilities, and things like that. But a minimum of 75% has to be used in payroll. And I'm going to keep repeating this because a lot of the questions will come back to that. 25% at the most can be used for mortgages. Now the question is, well, Victor, can I use the 100% for payroll? Absolutely. And then you can request that full 100% of the loan amount to be considered forgivable. Okay. Loan payments will be deferred for 6 months. No collateral or personal guarantees are required. Neither the government nor the lenders will charge small businesses any fees for the use of the program. Again, must keep employees on payroll or rehire quickly. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining the same salary levels. Forgiveness will be reduced, can be reduced, should you not be able to meet the requirements of the program. Businesses that are eligible, all small businesses are eligible. Small businesses are defined as businesses with 500 or fewer employees, including nonprofits, veterans organizations, tribal concerns, self-employed individuals, sole proprietorships, and independent contractors are eligible. Businesses with 500 employees or more are eligible in certain industries only. When can you apply? Effective April 3rd, 2020, small businesses and sole proprietors can apply and receive the loans for payroll. Effective April 10th, which is tomorrow, independent contractors and self-employed individuals can apply and receive loans through existing SBA lenders. Again, this program, you have to apply through an SBA lender. And I'll give you the link where you can find the lenders that are participating in the program. Just by typing in your zip code, it'll give you a list of the participating lenders in which you can go and apply. Our recommendation is to first go to your banking institution, the one that you currently use. Ask them if they're participating in the program. If they are, ask them to give you the application and help you submit the application for the PPP. If they are not, go to our website, type in your zip code, and then you get the list of lenders. The list is constantly changing. There are lenders that traditionally have not participated in the SBA lending programs. However, under the PPP, they decided that they now want to participate and are applying. And so the list is constantly changing. So please check on the list every day as the list continues to grow. Where can you apply? As I mentioned to you, it's funded through your local SBA participating lender. And you can get that at the sba.gov website. I'll give you the direct link there where you can go and find it. I'm also going to share the web portal for the U.S. Treasury here in a bit. Documents that you're going to need to take to your lender in order for you to apply. Because it is a payroll program, it is recommended that you take your payroll records, not the summary, but the detail. And we mentioned the detail as we're going to cover here in a bit what is considered payroll. And so when you're asking your payroll company, or if you do your own payroll, the details are the ones that you're going to need. That way it gives the lender an idea as to what it is in a bigger or a more accurate amount that you're spending on payroll. That way they can include it on the loan. Where can you use a proceeds at? Again, payroll costs, including benefits, and we're going to cover some of that here in a bit. But you can also use it, remember, this is a maximum of 25%. Otherwise, you're going to take the full amount as a loan, okay? So you can use up to 25% on interest on mortgage obligations before February 15, 2020, rent under lease agreements in force before February 15, 2020, utilities for which service began before February 15, 2020. Payroll and what is considered payroll. Payroll costs include salary, wages, commissions, or tips. Because we know that the impact of this program is going to be big, and we know the usage of it is also going to be big, it's capped at $100,000 per employee, okay? And that includes salary, wages, commissions, and tips. And so if you have employees that are making $50,000, you can apply for each employee at $50,000. Remember, this is annualized, not per month, but annualized for this payroll protection program. And so you can definitely do that. It's broken down by month. So it's $100,000 annualized per employee. Employee benefits include cost for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for separation, dismissal, payments required for the provisions of group health insurance premiums, payment of any retirement benefits, state, local taxes, in other words, payroll taxes, sole proprietors, independent contractors, same thing, wages, commissions, net earnings from self-employment, also capped at $100,000 per year per individual. These are the links for more information. You can go to sba.gov. On the top, there's a yellow banner. Click on coronavirus or COVID-19 for more information on all the programs that we're discussing here. Economic injury disaster loan application, including the advance, is on that COVID-19 relief.sba.gov, and the payroll protection program information on that. You can also, there's a link there as well. Another great site that you can use is the U.S. Department of Treasury. It's broken down in many ways. If you're a lender, you can click on that. If you're a borrower, you can click on that. The application is right there for you. You can download that, print it out, and start filling it out before you take it to your local bank. If you do know of a bank, if you're in the nonprofit world, if you're assisting businesses on this, there is an application that banks can fill out. And so if they want to participate, they can get that application to us and we will do that. The interim final rule and the final rule on affiliation is also there, as well as frequently asked questions. And there's also a link that you can click on, and they'll give you all the lenders that are also participating in the Payroll Protection Program with the Department of Treasury as well as the SBA. And so I'm going to go down the list of questions again. With regards to the Paycheck Protection Program, I was told that some of the small banks will be at the bottom of the line when it comes to issue of funding. Prior would begin to larger national banks on a first-come, first-served basis. I'm not sure about that first portion, whether smaller banks are going to get less of a priority. I know that it's equal across the board. It's only those that are participating in the program and that the bank has also requested to participate in the program. Unfortunately, not every bank and financial institution is participating in the program on their own. So that's something that I'm not sure where that came from, but that is not the case. As far as funding is first come, first served basis, yes, that is correct. Again, there is a cap of $350 billion allocated to the Payroll Protection Program. So it is very, very important to apply as soon as possible so that you can get your portion of the Payroll Protection Program. What is the timeline once you submitted the disaster loan? Right now, we're constantly working on the disaster loan application. The queues have been being worked on. We're asking and we're thanking you for your patience. So please talk to the 1-800 number, email disaster customer service at sba.gov so you can get a status update on your loan applications. As I mentioned earlier, the timeframes continue to change due to updates and upgrades to the programs themselves. So please contact the Disaster Center for a status update on your loan application. Can the other 25% on the PPP program be used to cover operating expenses, fuel, insurance costs, vehicle equipment, and payments? The answer is no. If you want detailed answers on that, our recommendation is to please go on this Department of Treasury website, click on the interim final rule, and it'll break it down for you as to what can and cannot be used for that 25%. Also, my recommendation is to go, when you're talking to your lender, ask them that question since the program is funded on behalf of the financial institutions. How does the independent contractor calculate the loan amount for the PPP? Can independent contractor applications also use the fund for self-employed health insurance plan? Again, this is a question for a lender. Since the lender will be receiving your application, they are the individuals that are going to ask you those detailed questions, and they may and may not ask for additional information and documentation. So that's a good question to ask the lender. Can you review the loan difference between the direct SBA loan and the loan through a lender? Can you please clarify that question for me? I believe it came from Ernesto Vega. Can you please clarify that question for me? What is the turnaround time for the disaster loan? Again, we're working on those. We thank you for your patience. If you want a status update on your current application, if you've already submitted one, please contact the Customer Service Center at that 1-800 number that I showed you. I'll bring it back up on screen here in a bit. Or shoot them an email, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. And here's the number, 1-800-659-2955 is the number to the Disaster Center. And there's the email. Please shoot them an email, give them a call, and they can give you a status update on your application.
Thank you, Victor. As we allow a couple more minutes for people to ask their questions on the group chat, I do want to ask you a couple of questions that have been asked to us as we're helping some of the small businesses. And the first one is, on the economic injury disaster loan, to be able to get the $10,000 advance, is there a minimum of $10,000 requirement to apply for a loan, or do they have to apply for greater than $10,000 to request the advance?
Again, so once you submit the application, SBA will make a determination based on the information provided by the borrower, how much the SBA will be able to lend to them. And the up to 10,000, so it's a maximum of 10,000. It can be less based on the information, again, that the borrower has provided.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, you know, the PPP is calculated based on the payroll for 2019, and I know there's a different formula to see if maybe it's seasonal employees that you had starting at the beginning of the year, but is it, you know, somebody was asking, what if my employees got a raise, or can I give them a raise, you know, now because I hadn't given them a raise before? Can they do that?
Great question. I'm definitely going to refer you over to the affiliation rule, to the final rules. There you will see different scenarios and how they calculate the salaries and wages for those employees. If it's a question where you have crews working at a specific time of the year, you lay them off a specific time of year, and then they come back within that same year, that's more of a question to the direct lender.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we got a couple more on the chat box. Do you want to take a look at that real quick?
Says, still not clear how independent contractor calculates the loan amount since they do not have an average salary from 2019. Can you provide guidance on this? Okay, so independent contractors, sole proprietors for the most part, and self-employed individuals, income is based on the revenues is based on the income they receive for that year. And so your personal tax returns are really a mirror of what you earned for that particular year. So again, if you want more detailed question, a more detailed answer as to how it's broken down and how the calculation is made, a recommendation is to go to interim final rule on the U.S. Department of Treasury website, and it gives you a breakdown. But from the most part, those individuals that are independent, sole proprietors, or self-employed individuals, they will take a look at your tax return to make that determination. Can a self-owned hair salon get assistance? Is it the salon or is it the stylist? Because there is a difference between stylist and the hair salon owner. So it all depends on what portion of that business you're talking about. If it's the owner of the salon who rents the chairs to individuals, the owner of the salon can apply for that if they are sole proprietor, independent contractor, and any of those categories mentioned. However, if the renters, the stylists that are renting that particular chair, they themselves would have to apply individually for the PPP so they can take advantage of that program as well. Under PPP, what happens if you get funds and stay at home prevents you from paying payroll following disbursement? Great question to ask your lender as well, since they are the ones that you have to prove the rehire or current employment portion of the program. The bank that services the company account just took my phone number and said someone will call me back. I haven't received a call back. Recommendation is to contact the lender again If the lender is not providing the assistance the assistance that they should be providing, you also have that list that's provided in the Department of Treasury or in the SBA web portal. Type in your zip code, and then you have that ability to contact a different lender and see if they can assist you with that PPP program. For independent contractors, what part of the tax return are they actually looking for? That is a great question for your lender. Since they are the ones that are going to be processing your loan anyway, that question is for them to answer. What portions of the whole tax returns they're looking for? We recommend to take everything with you. That way, the more information you give them and they have, the easier it is for them to understand what type of business you're in. And again, as I mentioned in my previous and throughout the presentation, one of the reasons why loans are being delayed is for lack of information. So the more information you can give to your lender, the easier it'll be for them and the faster your application can be processed. The owner is a stylist. I think I'm missing a question there. Yeah, so if the owner is a stylist, going back to that question, can the hair salon apply for the PPP? The answer is yes, and each individual stylist would also be able to qualify, whether they're sole proprietor, self-employed, or independent contractor. They themselves independently can apply for the PPP program. And that's effective tomorrow, by the way. Only the sole proprietors can apply as of today or as of April 3rd. For independent contractors and self-employed individuals, the applications will be taking, you can take your applications to the lender effective tomorrow.
Victor, I want to go back and follow up on the question about the paying the employees. You mentioned that after the loan is received is when they need to make sure that they rehire, so it's 8 weeks after. And that's where I see some confusion as well with some of the business owners, because there's different dates that are being thrown out, right? So we have like February dates, we have March, we have June 30th for you to apply. And so the question is, when do you have to bring back your employees? Is it after you receive the loan, those 8 weeks after, or it has to be before June 30th?
The date for the PPP is 8 weeks after you receive the loan.
Okay, so if a business owner is applying for the PPP and they get the money, they have to pay their employees those following 8 weeks from when they get the money.
Correct. So if I'm the employer and I receive the disbursement today, I would have to rehire my employees within that 8 week period. As some of the questions came back, what if the business is closed? We don't know. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis. We don't know when the stay-at-home order will be lifted. And so if the stay-at-home is lifted, an example, if it's lifted tomorrow and I get my money dispersed tomorrow, then I have up those 8 weeks to rehire my employees. However, if I'm an employer that's considered an essential, say a mini mart or a gas station or any other essential business that I have current employees, then we would have to continue to keep them on board for those 8 weeks.
Now, a follow-up question to that. Now, does that mean that the employer has the option to pay their employees even if they're still home? So let's say, for example, the employer says, you know what, I have this fund that I was able to obtain. I'm going to pay you guys even though you guys are working from home. That would be acceptable as well?
That's a great question to ask the lender.
Okay.
Question on the chat is, what is the difference between a sole proprietor and independent contractor? Independent contractors usually receive a 1099, whereas sole proprietors also their own employees, and the owners of the business themselves. So there's a difference there. Independent contractors usually go 1099s. PPP, can I include the pre-tax AFLAC insurance premium paid on behalf of the I lost the question. There we go. On behalf of the employees and matching funds from the employer, this will be considered medical insurance. Again, another great question for the lenders, since they are the ones that are going to be processing their loan. Or you can also go to the interim final rule on the U.S. Department of Treasury website, which talks about and gives more description as to what can and cannot be considered part of the employee's wages and benefits when you're doing your calculations. Chase Bank said the hairstylist who also is the owner has to have a business account under Salon's name. Is this going to be a problem? She doesn't have one. She has mandated to close the business. As far as Chase Bank, I am not sure. We're not asking the lenders at this point in time what their requirements are.
You can go to the annotate option. And I was trying to figure out where that comes from.
What we do know is that if the bank is not giving you the service that you're looking for, you can also visit our website. You can also visit U.S. Department of Treasury website, click on the link, type in your zip code, and you can get a listing of the lenders that can assist you with the PPP. What if a bank on the SBA list says you have to be a customer of that blank for the PPP? No, it does not. As I mentioned, at this point in time, the SBA is not asking the details of the lenders as to who they are and who they are not servicing. We do recommend is if you're looking on the SBA website, you're looking at the list of lenders, definitely give them a call first. Ask them what their requirements are for the PPP program, and then they can give you further details as to what their policies are with regards to the PPP. There's a question that I'm not sure of. It says, when I calculate the amount to borrow, or how can you calculate the amount to borrow? For the PPP, there are different scenarios. If you look at the interim final rule, our recommendation is to go there and see if one of those rules applies to you. Since us here at the SBA, we're not accountants, we're not the lender itself either, we can't give you those details because we don't know. So our recommendation, if you want to do the calculation on your own, go to the interim final rule or ask the lender directly so you can see exactly how much it is that you can apply. What are some reasons our applications may be denied? Lack of information. It's always usually the reason why applications are denied, for lack of information, which is why we recommend take as much information as you can when you go apply for the PPP. The more information your lender has, the easier it is for them to understand your business, and the process of your application can continue forward. Bank of America says you need to have business account to apply through them, although independent contractors use personal accounts. Is Bank of America allowed to do this? Again, it's something that the bank has decided to do. Well, SBA does not give them we the SBA do not regulate those portions of the lending institutions. As long as the lending institution is willing to accept the PPP program, then you can either choose them to do business with, or you can drop down the list and pick an additional lender that can provide that service to you. What is economic injury disaster loan on the form mean? EIDL is a short for economic injury disaster loan. Our P&L and balance sheets required for 2019 and year-to-date 2020. So the question has become for both economic injury disaster loans and payroll or PPP. What happens if you have not filed your 2019 tax returns? And of course, we're still in the middle of 2020. A profit and loss statement will definitely give a better view of your business to whether it be the lender or the SBA for applying for economic injury disaster loans. It'd definitely be an additional document for you to have handy, including the first quarter of 2020, which is January, February, and March. What if you receive a PPP loan and we have seasonal workers and those 8 weeks half are laid off? That's a question for your lender, since again, a lot of these questions are going to be they're going to refer back to your lender, since they are the ones that are going to process your Paycheck Protection Program loan. They can give you more details on the different scenarios and specific detailed questions based on your company structure and industry that you're in. Some credit unions are not taking any of these SBA loans, so these individuals are left out. Banks are stating that they will only be taking applications for current clients only. Non-new clients can they turn away applicants. Again, if you go onto the Department of Treasury website or the SBA web portal, type in your zip code, and you can find additional banks that may be able to provide you with that assistance under the PPP program. Can you explain how it works for an independent hairdresser? Again, if the independent hairdresser wants to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, they can then apply as of tomorrow, since they would be considered self-employed. They don't fall under the sole proprietor. Most hairdressers don't go in and file a fictitious business name or get the permit required for traditional businesses, so they'd be considered self-employed. The application will be open for individuals in that category as of tomorrow. So you can go onto the Department of Treasury website today, download the application, start completing that out, get your documentation ready, which includes your tax returns. And then as of tomorrow, you can take those over to your financial institution so you can turn in your PPP. If you don't have a P&L, are you eligible for the PPP? Again, it's a document that your lender may or may not ask for. If you currently do not have one, our recommendation is to please contact our local SBA partners, whether it be the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Women's Business Centers, Veterans Business Outreach Centers, local chambers of commerce, such as Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. They too can assist you with those. There's numerous organizations that can help you put this stuff together so that you have it ready when you're ready to submit your application for the PPP. Can you provide the PowerPoint for us? Absolutely. For additional fee of $500, this too can be yours, so you can refer back to it at any point in time. I'm kidding. I'll send that over to Yeti, and she can share for the rest of the group.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much for this presentation. I know there's still a lot of questions to be asked, and I think you made it very clear that the banks are all doing their processing differently, and we want to remind everybody to contact your lender. Also, contact us if you need additional assistance. We are recording the webinar as well, so we will be sending it out. And we can definitely send it out along with Victor's PowerPoint presentation here. So I'm just going to take a few more minutes to just make a few announcements before we wrap up the conversation here today. As a lot of you know, a lot of the banks have been overwhelmed with a lot of the applications that they've been receiving, and some of them have stopped receiving applications. But we did hear back from one of our partners, which is Wells Fargo. They have now reopened they've resumed taking the PPP applications, and so they are recommending, just like a lot of our other financial institution partners, to submit your application right away. Like Victor mentioned, there is a limit on the funding available as of right now. We are hoping that, more will become available, because we know that there's a huge need with the small business community. And so keep in contact with your local bank. If your bank is not taking any applications, contact us so that we can help you out and connect you with other resources that may be able to help you out. So Wells Fargo is now resumed taking the PPP applications. So please, if you bank with them, do not wait. Please submit it as soon as possible. We also want to announce we did send out an email earlier this week. The Save Our Small Business Loan to Grant program is now available. The deadline to apply is this Sunday. It's a partnership between the City of Fresno and Access Plus Capital, where businesses within the City of Fresno may be eligible to obtain a $5,000 to $10,000 loan that can become forgivable. We are helping businesses with filling that out. Same thing as the process with the SBA loan programs. You must have a complete packet for you to be considered. And so we find that a lot of the times the delay is that, small businesses don't have the documentation ready or are submitting applications that are not complete. And so that's definitely delaying the process. So we are more than happy to help you out with your application for the Save Our Small Businesses Loan to Grant program. It's due this Sunday. It's a really good opportunity to at least help you out with a little bit there. And of course, for you that, if you're not receiving our email blast, if you got this email from somebody else, please feel free to contact us so we can get you added to our email list. Please also connect to our social media platforms, which we have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Fresno AHF, so that you can be informed and up to date on all the different things that we have going on, the resources. We are looking to schedule more in the coming days. And if there's anything in particular that you would like to hear about, please let us know. We will make sure that we continue bringing you valuable information and resources as it becomes available, because as you know, there's a lot of new information coming out on a daily basis. So with that being said, we are going to wrap it up for today. Victor, thank you so much for joining us. And again, please reach out to the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. We'd be more than happy to assist you. Thank you so much for joining us today.